February the 16th, 2024. Crowds moved through Cork Port, shipments were processed and cargo containers rolled in and out. Then, something stopped. A large industrial recycling machine, heavy and unassuming, was marked for export. But something about it was off. Customs officers forced open the steel exterior of a massive industrial machine. Inside, hidden within its hollow frame, was something no one expected. €32.8 million worth of concealed narcotics. Enough methamphetamine to rewrite the history of drug busts in Ireland. Hidden in plain sight, the discovery was a shock. But for one man, it was the end of the road. Nathan McDonnell.
On the 15th of February 2024, customs officers acting on intelligence stopped and inspected a large machine at the Port of Cork and spotted inconsistencies with it. It took workmen several hours to cut holes in it, and inside officers discovered more than 540 kilograms of methamphetamine or crystal meth worth over €32 million.
Nathan McDonnell was the name of respect in Tralee, a businessman, a community leader, a man who built businesses, dined with the elite and carried a reputation of success. But behind the polished image, a financial crisis he couldn't escape. And when desperation set in, so did the wrong choices. February the 16th, 2024. He wasn't making a normal business deal. It was a routine morning at Cork Port until alarms cut through the air. Customs officers moved fast, their focus locked on a shipment marked for export. Something wasn't right. Within moments, armed officers surrounded the container. Tools scraped against metal as they forced open the massive industrial machine. Then, silence. A discovery that would send shockwaves through Irish law enforcement. Authorities moved fast. Every court appearance brought more charges. Investigators linked him to an international trafficking network. Evidence piled up. Surveillance footage, phone records, financial trails. The case against him was undeniable. For Nathan McDonnell, adjusting to life behind bars was going to be a challenge. He would come face to face with a reality far harsher than he'd ever anticipated. One name would make that reality even clearer: Glenn Thompson. Surviving prison is one thing, but surviving who you're locked up with, that's an entirely different challenge. One McDonald would soon face head on. At some point, McDonnell crossed paths with Thompson. What happened next wasn't just a disagreement. It was a moment that would leave a lasting impact on McDonnell, both physically and psychologically. Before I unravel these complex events, let's pause for a moment. Nathan McDonnell was not another suspect. He was a businessman, a public figure, and a man with a reputation to uphold. Yet, somehow, he became entangled in one of the largest narcotic operations in Irish history. So how does someone with so much to lose end up in a maximum security prison? This is the story of Nathan McDonnell, a tale of desperation, deception, and the far-reaching grip of international narcotics cartels. But more importantly, how did it all come crashing down? And the answers may not be as simple as they seem. We need to understand how McDonnell went from boardrooms to prison blocks, from a businessman to an inmate sharing space with some of Ireland's most dangerous criminals. Because to grasp the weight of what happened behind bars, we first have to know everything that led him there. McDonnell grew up in Tralee, County Kerry, where he was deeply involved in the local business community. Over the years, he carved out a successful career, eventually becoming a director in 11 different companies, many of them in retail and hospitality. By the time he reached his mid-40s, he had built up an impressive resume and a reputation of one of the country's biggest entrepreneurs. McDonald's most important and personal venture was his family-run Ballyseedy Garden Centre business. For years, Ballyseedy Garden Centre was more than just a business. It was a symbol of the McDonnell family's reputation. Located just outside of Tralee, it was a well-known spot amongst locals, celebrated for its high-end garden supplies, stylish home decor, and even an upscale cafe. Under Nathan's leadership, the garden centre expanded. It thrived into a successful venture that was part of his family's legacy. For years, McDonnell was admired as a businessman with a vision. He had a name, a reputation, and a life that many would envy. But beneath the surface, financial cracks had begun to show. Success can be deceiving. From an outsider's perspective, Nathan McDonald looked like a man in charge. He was wealthy, respected, but behind the doors, his empire was crumbling. McDonald was drowning in debt. His financial troubles had spiralled out of control, and the numbers were quite staggering. €4 million in unpaid debts. What happens when a man who is at the height of his success finds himself on the ropes, on the brink of losing everything? He gets desperate and may opt for an option that seems good enough, regardless of how risky it can be. And that's what McDonald did. His life took an unexpected turn. At first, it seems harmless. A simple favour. A machine stored at his garden centre. Nothing illegal, or so he told himself. But then the conversations changed. Payments were discussed. €150,000, more money than he had seen in a long time. The people he was dealing with, not business partners, not suppliers. They were members of an Irish organised crime group connected to one of the most feared cartels in the world, the Mexican Sinaloa Cartel. Before he realised it, he wasn't just storing equipment, he was facilitating the export of a phony electromagnetic separator machine packed with millions in narcotics. Now, that's not the kind of people you should be rubbing shoulders with, especially when you're a well-reputed businessman. The Sinaloa Cartel is one of the most brutal cartels in the gangland. Since his arrest in February 2024, every time McDonald has been transported to court, a heavily armed escort has accompanied him. This isn't just routine protocol, it's a sign that authorities consider him a high-risk target. The cartel responsible for the record-breaking crystal meth seizure fears McDonald could cooperate with the Gardaí, and that alone makes him a man marked for retaliation. This level of security wasn't without reason. It all traced back to how the operation was set up in the first place. Garda Síochána stated that their belief was that the recycling machine had been brought into Ireland from Mexico in October 2023. They asserted that this was just part of an operation run by an organised crime gang. Additionally, the court heard that the co-accuser, James Lean, was suspected of directing his illegal operation. During the court proceedings, it was revealed that Nathan McDonald's case was connected to a much broader investigation. For over a year, Gardaí had been tracking the activities of an organised crime group operating in the Kerry district. Detective Sergeant David Howard testified that this was a transnational organisation with logistical cells in multiple countries, including one in Kerry. The group was involved in narcotic trafficking, money laundering and witness intimidation, pointing to a well-structured and far-reaching operation. The court also heard that this crime group had particular connections to another major criminal network, Mexico's Sinaloa Cartel. These revelations highlighted that McDonald was not dealing with a small-scale operation. He was caught up in a network with international ties and serious criminal capabilities. As the case progressed, the walls kept on closing in on Nathan McDonald. With each court appearance, the charges against him piled up, and the evidence painted a clearer picture of his deep entanglement in organised crime. As the investigation developed, it became clear that McDonald's involvement wasn't just incidental. In fact, he played a direct role in moving the operation forward. The recycling machine was shipped from Mexico and transported to Ballyseedy Garden Centre. By October 2023, McDonald's role had become more pronounced. The court heard that he personally engaged with shipping companies attempting to arrange the export of the industrial machine to Australia. But there was a problem. The shipment needed to appear legitimate. To solve this, McDonald took deliberate steps to cover his tracks. He worked to secure a VAT number and a legitimate business address in Australia, ensuring that the machine had a proper paper trail. This wasn't just about shipping, it was about making sure no one asked questions. The court also revealed that McDonald arranged for false invoices to be created, adding another layer of deception to the export process. He even relied on family and friends to connect him with an Australian business owner, convincing them to assist in his scheme unknowingly. But his involvement didn't stop there. Once the recycling machine was in transit, the plan was to switch the delivery address after it had cleared Irish customs. A carefully crafted move to ensure it reached its real destination without raising suspicion. According to the Gardaí, McDonald was set to pay between €2,500 and €5,000 to the Australian business owner. likely an incentive to keep things moving smoothly. In court, it was made clear that the responsibility for exporting this massive industrial equipment fell almost entirely on McDonnell. His involvement wasn't casual, it was calculated, and every move he made left behind a trail, one that authorities would eventually follow straight to him. Court proceedings demonstrated that McDonald took major responsibility in the operation. The high degree of trust enabled McDonald to handle various critical tasks involving narcotic storage for 4 months, handling payments and falsifying communications with legitimate business owners to accelerate delivery. Although McDonald denied knowing the true nature of the operation, the evidence presented in court showed that he had access to enough information to understand what he was involved in. Justice Melanie Greeley said that McDonald could join the dots and no narcotics was involved. The public had become deeply intrigued by Nathan McDonald's shift from respected business owner to major narcotic trafficking facilitator. According to court evidence, McDonald dedicated himself actively to the narcotic trafficking operation by taking severe trust-based and responsible assignments. His level of involvement goes beyond basic pawn work, demonstrating an increased responsibility within the operation structure. He accepted his financial debts while craving €150,000 to participate as a sign of his desperate situation. McDonald's parallel approach makes one question if he planned his narcotics case awareness or acted out of desperation just because he was broke. Nathan McDonald was once a respected businessman, known for his ventures and community support. However, his public image drastically changed after evidence of his €32 million narcotics trafficking surfaced. Opinions are now divided. Some see him as a desperate man who made a tragic mistake, while others believe he acted with intent. His role as an international narcotics operation shocked many, especially as he was the face of Ballyseedy Garden Centre, a trusted family business. Some members of the public struggle to separate the crime from the person they once knew. Many point to his family, his 3 children, his wife standing by him, and his mother, who worked tirelessly to build the garden centre from the ground up. His downfall has upended their lives. For those who supported Ballyseedy, the story is more than a criminal case. It's a personal loss. A place once known for its community presence is now tied to headlines about organised crime. While some see McDonnell as a man who made an irredeemable choice, others view his actions as a desperate mistake, one that cost him everything. What do you think? Does financial hardship excuse involvement in one of the world's most notorious narcotic networks? Ultimately, McDonnell made his choice, and now he has to face the consequences. Many believe McDonnell knew exactly what he was doing and refused to see his actions as a moment of desperation. The evidence shows that he stored the narcotics for months, coordinated their shipment and falsified records. These are the steps that require planning, not panic. Some people argue that financial struggles don't justify fueling a crisis that destroys lives. Some went further, calling for the government to shut down his business entirely. They believe that profits from his ventures should not continue after his role in the operation. To them, McDonnell is not a businessman who made a mistake. Instead, he's someone who prioritised profit over the harm caused by what he was moving. Public opinion may be divided, but in the eyes of the law, only one thing matters: the evidence. As debates raged on the outside, inside the courtroom, the real battle had begun. What arguments did McDonnell's defence present? Did he try to escape the weight of his actions? And how did the prosecution dismantle his case? Regardless of public opinion, whether sympathetic or unforgiving, the law operates on evidence, not emotions. In the courtroom, it wasn't about how people saw McDonnell, it was about what could be proven. Let's step inside the courtroom again and unravel the twists and turns of one of the most high-profile trials in recent Irish history. McDonnell's lawyer, Padraig O'Connell, said that his client did not know that there were any narcotics in that machine. He further said that his client was only aware of the recycling machine that had been stored on his premises. Mr. O'Connell said that his client did not receive any money. Nathan McDonnell's arrest drew nationwide attention, but what came next proved just how seriously the legal system viewed his case. Like many defendants, McDonnell immediately sought bail, hoping to fight his charges from the outside. But this wouldn't be an easy battle. not when he was at the centre of a €32 million narcotics bust. When McDonald's bail application landed in the local court, it was rejected. Later, McDonald's solicitor, Podrick O'Connell, applied for bail in the High Court, and the prosecution wasted no time in making their stance clear. This was no ordinary case, and granting him bail was simply too risky. The prosecution argued that McDonald was not facing a minor offence. He was accused of helping and facilitating an international narcotics smuggling operation. Moreover, the three-judge appeal court agreed that Mr. McDonald was a flight risk. McDonald's father offered to put forward €100,000 in bail money, which is such a large amount it can be considered his life savings. Later, Sergeant Tony Griffin told the three-judge court that they were objecting to bail on the strength of the evidence, a CCTV footage from February 2024 showing McDonald operating a forklift to load the machine onto a container to be sent to Cork Harbour. The judge, Justice Karen O'Connor, acknowledged McDonald's father's willingness to cooperate, stating that she understood his perspective and recognised the sincerity behind his efforts to come forward and offer a significant sum as part of his bail application. However, she emphasised that despite the fact that this sum represented his life savings, it was simply not sufficient given the scale of the case. She further noted that the court had to consider the overall financial scope of the operation, one valued at €32.8 million, far exceeding the amount McDonald's father was willing to offer. Senior counsel for the state, Roisin Lacey, said that the €100,000 bail offer was a very significant sum, but for a criminal organisation involved in a case like this, it was a drop in the ocean. She said that Mr. McDonald's alleged involvement was at a very significant level, and he was far from being a mule. The prosecution had already made it clear that the maximum penalty for his charges was life imprisonment, meaning that if found guilty, a custodial sentence was inevitable. The judge denied McDonald's bail due to flight risk concerns, ensuring that he remained in custody as his case moved to the Special Criminal Court. Despite multiple attempts, his bail was repeatedly refused, though his solicitor considered taking the matter to the Supreme Court. With his bail denied and a lengthy legal battle ahead, the impact on McDonald's arrest extended far beyond the courtroom, engulfing his business in its wake. As Mr. McDonald remained behind bars, there were some significant changes in the whole Ballyseedy group. In fact, there was another company owned by the McDonnell family that would take charge of all of these businesses, and it was called Smash Burgers. It was reported that Nathan McDonnell's wife, Jackie O'Duffy McDonnell, had been named as the director of this new company along with Nathan McDonnell. Ballyseedy Home and Garden Centre released a statement regarding the whole event in the town of Tralee. In the statement they said, "Having worked tirelessly to provide a local, hospitable service to the people of Tralee and Kerry at Ballyseedy Home and Garden since its foundation in 1992, the family wish to express our sincere gratitude for the continued support during this difficult time. Our focus is on trying to protect the 140 roles that exist within the company, their families, and the wider community that this business is an integral part of. We remain steadfast in our determination to keep the company trading by providing a service that is built on honesty, integrity, and hard work." Things got far more serious for Nathan every time he appeared in court. More and more charges were brought by the Office of the Director for Public Prosecutions. Nathan was also charged with anti-gang land legislation. James Lean, the co-accuser, faced a charge of directing a criminal organisation. But just when everyone expected him to fight the legal battle, Nathan McDonnell indicated a guilty plea. Was this a calculated move or a moment of desperation? Or was it something entirely different? Nevertheless, his indication of a possibility of a guilty plea surprised many, not least because he had not properly consulted with his solicitor before making this indication in court. Given the complexity and scale of the case, such an early admission was considered unusual. Typically, defendants first receive the book of evidence, which contains all the statements, digital evidence, and details of the case against them. After receiving the book, they assess their legal standing before entering a plea. This can take several months, during which legal teams strategize based on the strength of the prosecution's case. A guilty plea at this stage is rare, as most accused individuals wait until they fully understand the evidence against them before making such a decision. McDonald is due to be served with this book on July the 30th, 2025, after which he would be expected to carefully review the full case before deciding on a formal plea. Nathan McDonald's time in Portlaoise Prison might be the reason behind his guilty plea. In Portlaoise Prison, it's all about survival. Unlike many inmates, he's not accustomed to this world. Just months ago, he was running businesses, making financial decisions, and living a comfortable life. Now he's in a maximum security prison, surrounded by high-risk offenders, facing threats that extend far beyond the walls around him. One of the biggest concerns isn't just prison violence, it's the ongoing threat from the Sinaloa Cartel. Authorities believe McDonald's involvement in the smuggling operation may have put him in a dangerous position. There are concerns that cartel members suspect him of cooperating with law enforcement. The risk has forced heightened security measures, ensuring he remains under strict monitoring to prevent any targeted attack. The weight of these conditions is beginning to show. The pressure of prison life, the constant security concerns, and the reality of a long sentence ahead have all played a role in his next move. Seeking an early guilty plea may be his way of trying to regain some control over a situation that has spiraled beyond his reach. But it's not that simple. Even if McDonald chooses a guilty plea, he must do so in person before the special criminal court, as it cannot be done remotely. This means stepping out of a controlled environment, being transported under high security, and facing the reality of his choices in an open courtroom. Every move now carries risk, and for McDonald, the dangers aren't just legal, they're life-threatening. And that would only be the beginning. A guilty plea would trigger a lengthy sentencing process which can take months to conclude. The sentencing phase would involve various factors, including probation reports and mitigating arguments presented by his defence team. The court would assess the extent of his involvement and any potential cooperation with law enforcement. So, while McDonald may see an early guilty plea as a potential way to ease his situation, his legal battle is far from over. Even with a plea, the road ahead remains long and uncertain. And with the dangers of prison life looming over him, the pressure is only building. As McDonald weighs the possibility of an early guilty plea, prison life dealt him another blow. Literally. The thing is, prison is not for everyone. Prison changes a man. But for McDonald, it wasn't just about adapting, it was about surviving. And Glenn Thompson made sure he understood that. One clash, one shattered jaw, a clear message. McDonald wasn't in control anymore. He was hospitalised with a suspected broken jaw after a violent altercation behind bars. And the man he clashed with? A known Kinahan hitman. This is the same Kinahan cartel that was involved in violent gangland feuds, international narcotic trafficking, and targeted eliminations across Europe. The stakes for McDonald are no longer just legal, they're personal. So, who was this Kinahan hitman? So, who is this Glenn Thompson? Thompson is a 29-year-old convicted hitman linked to the Kinahan cartel. He was already serving a 12.5-year sentence for his role in a failed assassination attempt on Patsy Hutch, the brother of notorious crime figure Jerry the Monk Hutch, a man that doesn't operate by the rules of business, he operates by the rules of survival.
Nathan McDonnell wore a face mask to his sentencing today, with his barrister saying he'd needed surgery on his jaw after being viciously assaulted in prison and asking the judges to take this into account.
For weeks, McDonald and his inmate lived in close quarters, part of a small group of just 6 men who were free to move around their landing when not in lockdown. But in a place where tensions run high, even minor disputes can quickly turn violent. It's unclear what exactly led to the attack, but prison sources suggest it was nothing more than a case of stepping on each other's toes, a simple clash that escalated in a confined space. That clash ended with McDonald on the ground and his jaw shattered. The attack was severe. McDonald suffered multiple fractures and had to undergo surgery where 2 plates were inserted into his face to stabilise the broken bones. However, despite the severity of his injuries, he was not transferred to another part of the prison. Instead, it was his attacker who was moved. While the Kinahan-linked inmate may no longer be on McDonald's landing, the real danger isn't over. Sources suggest that the greatest threat he faces doesn't come from inside Portlaoise, It comes from the Sinaloa Cartel itself. Despite the recent assault, McDonald has not requested a 23-hour lockup for his protection. Prison officials have treated the issue as resolved, and the Irish Prison Service has refused to comment on the attack or any security measures surrounding him. His barrister, Michael Bowman SC, defending, informed the court at the outset of the hearing that his client was viciously assaulted and therefore his prison sentence would be more onerous on him than it may be for other prisoners. For now, Nathan McDonnell remains on the A3 landing, surrounded by figures deeply entrenched in organised crime. The question is, how long before tensions rise again? As Nathan McDonnell faces the fallout of his choices, 12 years behind bars, one person remains by his side, his wife, Jackie O'Duffy McDonnell. Despite everything, she hasn't turned away. She knows what he did was wrong, but she still supports him. The question is, why? Speaking in a recent interview, Jackie described the experiences as devastating, calling it a reality she could never have imagined. The sentencing of a man you are in love with is awful, she said. Despite everything, she remains steadfast in her support. I am standing by him 100%. Jackie and Nathan share 3 sons, and while her husband's downfall has been a painful and public ordeal, her focus remains on the family. This was not my life plan, God no, she admitted. It's a blow. It is what it is. But I have to think about what's best for the boys. She acknowledges that Nathan's choices have caused irreversible damage, yet she struggles to reconcile the man she knows with the crimes he committed. I can't understand it. It's against everything I know him to be. He's a very honourable man. He's done an awful lot for the community, for charity, for this town. So how did he end up here? Jackie believes it may have been a moment of madness, a decision made in desperation, one that spiralled beyond his control. I think once he agreed, he couldn't go back on it. But even as she tries to make sense of it all, she admits, I'm only surmising. He didn't say that to me. For now, she's left to pick up the pieces, trying to map out a future for herself and their children. We need to come up with a plan as to how we move forward with this in a way that is beneficial for all of us. Her husband may be behind bars, but for Jackie, the fight isn't over. Nathan McDonnell's case is one of the most shocking and complex narcotics busts in Irish history. A businessman turned convicted criminal, a man who once thrived in boardrooms, now fights for survival in prison. His story is one of ambition, desperation and consequences. Consequences that extend far beyond him, affecting his family, his businesses and his once pristine reputation. But even with his guilty plea and sentencing, is this truly the end of the story? Will he survive his full sentence, or could cooperation with authorities change his fate? And as he navigates the dangers of prison life, will he continue to stand firm, or will new pressures force him to make even more drastic decisions? One thing is certain, Nathan McDonnell's fall from grace has left a mark that won't be forgotten anytime soon.